Well, welcome back to AP World History Modern. Today we're going to be looking at Unit 4.7, Changing Social Hierarchies, Social Interactions, and Organizations. We're going to be doing a little claim development, and our learning objective is explain how social categories, roles, and practices have been maintained or changed over time. And you can see there's a lot of crossover between today's topic, looking at social organization, with Unit 3. Right? So a lot of this should be familiar from what we did in Unit 3. We're really just kind of looking at, when you're looking at kind of the continuities and changes over time, right, within these social structures from 1450 to 1750. Where do the continuities exist? And where do we see those kind of major changes, right? So obviously the continuity that we're going to see is Russia, and then we're going to see a pretty consistent change in the rest of the empires. So if you're talking about just general trends, what are we largely seeing? We are largely seeing a general decreasing in authority and influence of the landed aristocracy and or the landed gentry. Your boy, whatever regional term you want to call it. The Zamanders, the Timmers. You're seeing a general decrease in their authority and their influence in government. Although we do get to 1750 with them still in a dominant position, you are seeing an erosion of their authority, right? Because of interactions taking place, right? And so if they're obviously decreasing in their authority, then who is on the rise, right? Who's filling that void? And largely the example, the answer is the merchant class is beginning to increase their authority, and and of course they will be benefiting from mercantilistic policies, from this the beginning of this period in the early 1500s up until 1750. But you'll also see a migration away from mercantilism. Right? There's an evolution going on economically, and in some ways, some of the things that were created within mercantilism are eventually going to lead to its demise, and right. So merchants are going to kind of be increasing in their authority, in their influence, and even though you will not see dynamic change by merchants on states during this period, their rise will put them into a position where at the beginning of this next time period, they're going to have dramatic impacts. All right. So once you kind of get away from that general who is losing influence and prominence and who is on the rise in influence and prominence, you can kind of take a different look at social structures and social hierarchies, kind of by region, right? And so if you're looking at how social organizations changed, during this time period, you may want to look at internal policies that we see. And so, of course, the Dev Sherm provides a really nice example within the Ottoman Empire, and this will give rise to to the Janissaries and but also other groups within the Ottoman Empire that are also connected to the Dev Sherm, because remember there are 4 different paths that could be taken, and of course the Dev Sherm will come to an end in the early 1600s, and then so you'll see that change as well. So you kind of look at it like that. You could go along the lines of of religious policies. Right, and how we do that. But of course, merchants are a major part of this time as well. All right. If you want to kind of look at the Manchus, this is kind of another interesting little case study that you could draw a similarity comparison with. You have in the case of the Qing Dynasty in China, an ethnic minority, the Manchus, ruling over China where the ethnic majority is going to be Han. And you could draw a similarity comparison with South Asia, that the Mughals are ruled by an ethnic Turkish Muslim minority ruling over a South Asian Hindu population. And so when you kind of look at how they each did this, what are some examples of intolerance and discrimination that were put into place, in order to maintain their authority as an ethnic minority group ruling over an ethnic majority, or what are some examples of adoption of cultural practices or religious toleration, I guess, in the case of South Asia, right? So in what ways were they tolerant? Obviously the Qing are gonna adopt Neo-Confucian practices from the Ming. We've also talked about the imperial portrait tradition as well. But you're also going to see plenty of intolerance. So this is if this is kind of a topic that interests you, and kind of doing a little bit of a deeper dive into, if you're looking for how social organizations changed, all right, then this would be this might be an interesting idea for you. All right, and of course, going back to Unit 3, the banners. So the Qing will increase banners and add banners to their society. And of course, this has everything to do with social status. So definitely, this rise of a new nobility can definitely be added to a written response talking about changes in social structures. All right, so. All right, and if you're looking at changes in social structures, I mean, these are, while these are important, looking at emperors and accomplishments of emperors, this is less to do with social hierarchies, right? Social structures, right? But it's always kind of a good reminder that these are pretty important people, so be aware of them, all right? But yeah, so here's a kind of a good example of continuities, right, of cultural practices. All right, and a little reminder from your Columbian Exchange homework, right? The Qing Dynasty, events going on there are impacted by the Americas as well. As far as Europe is concerned, obviously the rise of the bourgeoisie, if you want to use the French word, the burghers, the more German phrase for that, or the middle class, right? The rise of the middle class is the big change during this time frame, right? And of course, the continuity is in Russia, right? So this period begins with landowners and peasants, and it will end in Russia that way. And even the next time period almost does, so serfdom will not be abolished in Russia until the early 1860s. So you'll see the boyars and the serfs in that relationship develop. That social hierarchy will not change very much. And of course, we've already talked about the Castas and how all that worked. Right, so that's kind of another topic that you might want to use. All right, so that is all for today. So let's just run through some basic key takeaways. States at times adopted practices to accommodate the ethnic and religious diversity of their subjects. Ottoman tolerance of Jews and Christians, people of the book, demi-status, Mughal tolerance for other religions, especially Hinduism and Sikhism, policies of Akbar, until we get to Aurangzeb at least, all right, and then that will change. States at times suppressed diversity in limited groups' roles, all right, and Manchu treatment of Han Chinese. Restrictions on caste in the Americas. States utilize contributions of different ethnic and religious groups. All right. Jewish literacy and science in the Ottomans. Ming and Qing acceptance of Jesuit knowledge. Japanese, Tokugawa, Dutch learning. Right, be another example of that. Expansion of states create new global elites. Right, so the Manchus, Peninsulares, Criollos. And then, of course, the power of existing elites fluctuates. And, so boyars, will face challenges. The when you look at the examples of rebellions, right? So you have, you do have one example here, the Pugachev Rebellion is what that is referencing, right? And of course, European nobility faces challenges from various groups, and that's largely what we're going to be introducing in the next unit. All right, and so that's really all for today. We spent a decent amount of time in class today going through our assignment from last class, and we judged, right? We judged the the projects, the little group things that we did during class. So we could find who had the best. Right? So that's kind of we spent a decent amount of time in class just on that, and also just getting ready for the essay tomorrow. All right, that is all for today. Sabriati.